Before we get to the show, wanted to update you all on what's going on with Press Play Podcast. Very excited to announce we're bringing on JD Hyman as our Chief Operating Officer and Brooks May as our Head of Content and Development. JD and Brooks are high-caliber leaders and visionaries who believe in the network and want to help it reach new heights. I have the utmost respect for them personally and professionally, and I can't believe they're on board with us. It really is incredible. They're the best. Brooks will continue to host her book club podcast with us. Books with Brooks Season 2 kicks off here in October, and JD will launch his podcast, the Hyman Podcast, with us September 4th. The Hyman Podcast will focus on the human experience from a narrative storytelling approach. JD's style and point of view is very unique, and we're thrilled to have his voice with us at Press Play. Also, one more thing. Once again, we are partnering with GV Art and Design to offer a Cleveland Van gift basket. To one lucky listener this preseason. Included in this gift basket is a Browns t-shirt, a Cavs sticker, and an Indians magnet. All you have to do is retweet our GV Art giveaway tweet on the Oranges Oranger Twitter page and follow the Oranges Oranger Twitter account, and you'll be entered to win. That's it. That's simple. That easy. We will draw a winner when the Browns kick off against the Ravens Week 1. Shout out to GV Art and Design for working with us again. Great people, great products. You're going to like what we have to offer here. It's great. Thank you. Shout outs to you all. With that, we're excited to get to the show. Camryn, Jeremy, and I interview Eric Metcalf, which I'm still shocked that I get to do this interview and with these amazing people. Eric tells us about why he ran track in college, his time with the Browns, and who he expects to have a breakout year this season. Jim Donovan, take it away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They block the kick!
This is the Oranges Oranger Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I am your host, Chase Smith, and with me, he's your Browns insider, Jeremy Powell, and she's your favorite Emmy-nominated digital content producer from News Channel 5, Camryn Justice. Jeremy, Camryn, how you guys been?
Pretty good.
Good. Jeremy's back from the beach. Camryn's been grinding away on Twitter, doing her thing, keeping us all online. But we have a very special guest today, and I just want to read this introduction because it is one of the coolest intros. Here we go. 6 years, our guest here spent in Cleveland, 89 to 94. A triple threat, returning, receiving, rushing, 55 total touchdowns, third on the all-time list for returning touchdowns, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, but most importantly, cigar connoisseur. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Metcalf is on the show. Eric, what's up, man?
Not a thing. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for hopping on the show with us. Hey, we want to talk a little bit about your career and then a little bit about Browns training camp. So Eric, as we were talking before the show, this track super duper star at Texas, how was that going from this college track to the pros?
Well, track was something I did my entire life. I mean, I played football and obviously and ran track from the time I could do both, which is like at 7 years old. And so I was one of those guys who, because I had a little bit of speed, I figured I might as well go on and take it in between the white lines on the track and run that. And I got into long jumping, and I long jumped when I was a little kid, but it's not really that serious. And then I started long jumping in high school and started winning a lot. And so I was like, yeah, I could do this. And so being recruited, I was being recruited both as a track athlete and as a football athlete. And back then, the track scholarships didn't count towards football and all that. So it was a little different, but it was always good for a team, a good football team to recruit a kid who did track, because he could be or a track guy could, the track team recruit a track kid because they could keep him on the track scholarship and it doesn't count towards football. In my case, it was different because I went for football, but it was just, I just had a love for track. And then in college, it was my way of staying out of spring football. I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't think I needed to play spring football, and a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, especially now, if you don't go through spring football, they say they're not going to start you, they're not really going to play you, and so in my going into my junior year, I had the same thing happen where they said if you don't go to spring ball, because we had changed the coaches, that you're not going to start. And I told them that's a chance that I'll have to take because I just didn't want to go to spring ball.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Eric, I got to tell you this. You were one of my favorite players growing up, okay? And I got this incredible story that I always said if I ever interview him, I'm going to tell him this story. So I played inter ball in Akron. And the night of the legendary Steelers game when you had the 2 touchdowns, that was an afternoon game. And we had our banquet that night. So our sports banquet was going on. And I was a junkie even back then, Brown junkie. I want to know what was going on in the game. Well, they were talking about all of us at the banquet. So all of a sudden, one of my coaches who had a headset and was listening to the game when you ran the second touchdown back, and he started jumping up and down and going nuts. And the whole banquet came to a standstill, and he's like, Metcalf just scored another touchdown. Metcalf just scored another touchdown. So it was one of the coolest moments of my life. And I always said, if I ever get to talk to Eric Metcalf, I'm going to tell him about this moment of an entire inner city youth program going bananas as he took back his second touch to win the game against the Steelers. So how cool is that? It's like a fanboy moment, I know.
Stakes on me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I mean, that was a fun game, especially when I didn't think I was going to play in it in the first place because I had got injured in the week before and didn't actually practice till Friday. But it's when you get in the games and the adrenaline starts going, and everything seems to be working on those days. It feels good, and I have to keep telling people that is not my favorite game as a Browns player, but it's one of my favorite because of the way I know it made the Browns fans feel. But as a football player, it's okay.
So what was your most memorable moment as a Brown? I remember that Raiders game when you guys had the big comeback to win out in Oakland. The Steelers game. What was your most memorable moment, you'd say, as a Browns player?
My most memorable moment is a Steeler game, just because it's everyone else's most memorable moment. But I love that because I could say that I scored the game-winning touchdown. I mean, I really loved when we went out to the Raiders and I got to score a touchdown with 2 seconds left on the clock because, when you're a kid, no matter what sports, you want to hit a walk-off home run, you want to sink a bucket with no time on the clock, you want to score a touchdown with no time on the clock. And I mean, that's not with no time on the clock, but that's as close as it gets. I mean, so I really enjoyed that. But the year before, scoring 4 touchdowns against the Raiders in Oakland, but my most memorable game for me is a game, I want to say it was my second year in Houston, and we were playing the Oilers, and we actually lost the game. And I had over 100 yards receiving and like 90 yards rushing. And it's most memorable to me because it's how I felt I was going to be used my entire career. I thought I was going to be one of those guys who could go 1,000 receiving and rushing. And so when you have a game like that and you're very close to doing it, you think, oh, this could happen all the time. And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, but that's why I really like that game.
Realistically, though, your skill set was probably a little before your time, right? Like your skill set probably fit a little better now in the NFL, wouldn't you say, than it did even at that time?
Yeah, I call my dad all the time and say, look here, man, you had me too early.
Right.
and not only would I be getting the ball like I wanted, but I had so much more money.
Right?
I have to ask. So, I mean, obviously you weren't utilized in the way that a lot of fans wanted you to be. Was there an offense or is there a coach that you saw, like, or even now that you just kind of wish like you had that offense, you had that the ability to run under that scheme? Is there someone that just stands out to you? Well,
now now I think the way the game is played is so spread out that everybody pretty much plays like I would want to be used. I mean, you have, of course, Christian McCaffrey in Carolina and Dalvin Cook. You have Gurley, Alvin Kamara. All those guys are used. So now it's not like back when I played, those guys would probably be considered third down backs. And now, because of the way the game's played and it being so spread out, they can play every down. And so any system like that, I think I would be I would be fine in. I mean, when I was actually in the league, my dream was to play for the 49ers because I know that they, as a running back at the time, you could run the ball and they exactly, and they gave the running back an opportunity to catch a lot of balls, and so that's why Roger Craig was able to go 1,000.
Eric, I want to move on to the current Browns team, and training camp is well underway, and there have been a lot of injuries, a lot of devastating injuries on the Browns. Grant Delpit, just to name one, he's out for the season. Eric, as a player, when you're in training camp and you're going hard and you're fighting for a roster spot, not that you did, but just that whole concept of competition at camp, and you see players being injured. What's the mindset of a player? Does it change, or does that really affect kind of how you approach each day? Like what are the players thinking right now, Eric?
I mean, when you're a veteran guy, especially, and you've been with a team for a while, your mindset is to go through training camp and not to get hurt. I mean, especially when you're having to play preseason games, which they aren't having to this year, but when you know that you're playing against people who are actually trying to make a team on the other side, it makes it hard. And so you don't want to get hurt. You want to just be able to last through it and get to the regular season. I mean, when you have guys who are free agents who have been traded or come from other teams, it's a little different. Their mindset has to be a little different because they're trying to make a squad. And so they have to go guns a-blazing every play, and it makes it hard, especially because it's the balance. Sometimes you have some guys playing a little harder than other guys, and then injuries occur. But as a veteran, I would say the objective is to get through preseason without being injured and just get to the regular season.
So have you been watching a lot of the camp, or any of the video? I know it's all live streamed, but
no, I go and read and try some things and try to figure it out and see what's happening, but I haven't really watched it because it's really tough right now. I want to see football. I want to see real football. I mean, I think I would probably be more up to watching it if I knew there was going to be a preseason game. Mm-hmm. And so I could see them playing against another team where, it's live bullets and guys are trying to make teams. So you don't know what the other team is giving you. So you really have to play, even though you don't want to play hard. You really have to, because if you don't, you can get yourself hurt and maybe somebody else.
What do you think, Eric, about this having a backfield with both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, two guys who could easily be considered top 10 running backs in the league? Do you think there's enough carries to go around? Do you think you can keep both of those guys happy? What do you think of that combo?
I do. I mean, I think the way the game's played today, and they run so many plays because there's a lot of hurry up offense, everything's sped up, a lot of empty sets and everything. I don't really think for Kareem it's about carries as much as it's about touches. Yeah. I mean, Nick Chubb is one of those guys who it's about carries. He needs carries because he's a workhorse. But Kareem, because of his versatility, it should be about touches. I mean, if he carries the ball 8 times and catches 5-6 passes, that's the same 13, 14 touches. And so it's about getting those touches and then making something happen when you get those. And I had to learn that because I never got the ball like I wanted to. So I had to think of it as getting it in punt returns or maybe kickoff returns, having receptions, and then getting a couple runs.
Any way possible.
Right.
So speaking of Nick Chubb, I do want to ask you, I mean, obviously you saw last season, he was almost the leader of the entire
should have been.
And he should have been.
He should have been.
So now we're going into this season. What do you think? I don't want to limit him at all, but what do you think Nick Chubb's ceiling is? What are you expecting from him this season?
I think this season he has the opportunity to do a little more than he did last year. I mean, I think, and he was underused last year. It seemed like he had lots of big games and big plays, but to me it seemed like we didn't really use him until we needed him. It was pass first, then maybe Nick Chubb. We get down inside the red zone and we go empty, and no Nick Chubb on the field. We'd have 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Nick Chubb
4th and 9.
But 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Nick Chubb is standing on the sideline next to the head coach. I mean, that makes no sense. And so I think with the way Stefanski and those guys have run often, especially in Minnesota, he'd run three tight ends and everything, and give you multiple looks where they could hit you with deep passes and all that, but at the same time, you never knew where they were going to run the ball or what they were going to do. And I think it bodes well for Nick because it's a situation where the play action is there because he can run the ball, and with this wide zone scheme, he can get some big runs and take off just as we saw them do in Minnesota.
Yeah. Eric, how long do you expect the Browns offense to take before it begins to click? I mean, I feel like they're kind of at a disadvantage, not having those preseason games like you mentioned, and having this new system and having to deal with injuries. How long do you expect this offense to take before it really gels and clicks? Are we going to see it click week 1?
I mean, for me, clicking is enough to win. So at that point, I mean, because we all know that you're not going to get to play against anyone else. You're not going to see any different looks other than what you have seen on video, and then try to install that with your scout team. So it still makes it hard because you're not getting the same thing because they can change. Another team can change up. But I think as long as they're going through it hard in practice, they'll have a chance to click. But we all know that it's easier for defense to be on point before it is offense, and so the Ravens defense in week 1 they'll be better together than the offense will be together. But it's just being able to sustain and make plays and take advantage of what you're given. And I think once we get started and once teams get to play each other, it's going to be the same for everyone.
Eric, you obviously played running back and you were a return specialist. So you have experience in playing different roles. Right now, the Browns in camp, you're getting to see a mix of Donovan Peoples-Jones doing that same thing, having that fill-in position of being a wide receiver, but also being a return specialist. JoJo Natson. Is there anything that you've seen from these guys that just kind of stands out? Any particular player, or anything that you think they should do to better utilize their role on the team?
So obviously, the more you can do gives you a better opportunity of playing on the field. But I think, when you have a guy who plays, I'm really speaking in terms of Donovan Peoples-Jones. When you have a guy who's going to play offense and then possibly return punts or kicks or whatever, you're more in a rhythm because you're always in the game. And I think it bodes well because you get to see, the game speed. You know how whether guys are tired coming down. You know how your blockers feel, and so it makes it a lot easier. And so I just like the fact that guys who are position players are returners because they're more engaged in the game as opposed to somebody who just sits on the sideline and comes in on 3rd down and returns a punt, or even waits till another team scores or the beginning of the half to get a kickoff return, because he's never really in the game, and it makes it hard to just turn it on and go.
Eric, you're part of some pretty special Browns teams, and firsthand the role that Browns fans can play in a game, being at Cleveland Browns Stadium. And even though we have a new stadium now, we're still not sure if we're going to get fans in the stadium. Maybe Jeremy can shed more light on that because he's a season ticket holder. But Eric, if there are no fans in the stadium, like what kind of impact is that going to have on the NFL games and the Browns without having these passionate fans there?
I think it's going to be weird for one, because I mean, when you step on the field, that's the first thing you do is throw your hands up and wave to the fans and everything, and try to get them excited, especially when you're at home. But I think it there's no longer any home field advantage to me if there's no fans in the stadium, because you can hear everything. the calls and everything. Especially if you're on offense and you're a visiting team, and say we're playing the Steelers in Cleveland, and they're on offense, our fans can't yell and they have to go silent, count, and try to do everything without a snap, and so they'll be able to hear everything. So I think that's an advantage for offenses on visiting squads. So it's gonna be a lot different. And so now it's about going out there and executing on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to be strange, Chase. I know that the Browns put out their plan today, and they sent stuff to all the club level season ticket holders that you'll be able to go to the game. It's going to be 20% capacity. So we're going to have about 13 to 15,000 fans. It is definitely going to be a strange environment. Eric, do you think it's going to be tough with, like you said, with that few fans to get excited for the game? How long do you think that adjustment will be? A couple of games, or do you think this is something that could linger all season long?
I think it'll be tough just knowing that there are no fans out there and nothing to get you pumped up in that regard. But when you're in between those white lines, if you're not pumped up or full speed, it could be dangerous out there. So you better be ready for that. And so I think once you get in there, I mean, you don't hear the crowd noise or as much crowd noise, but the guys will be playing hard, and so you got to do what you got to do because it's your job.
Jeremy, is that confirmed?
Yeah, they released their plan. They've submitted it to the governor. So
yeah, the Haslams they're hoping for that around 20% capacity with approval from DeWine. Now DeWine's plan allows. So right now it's set at 15% of seating capacity, the lesser of 15% or 1,500. So obviously the lesser of 15% would be 1,500 in First Energy Stadium, but having 1,500 fans is not feasible at that point. You might as well just have no fans. So there's a clause in the order, in DeWine's order, that allows teams to submit if they have a plan to have more fans. So they've submitted for the 20%. Today they outlined what they'll do if they are allowed to have fans. They're still working. It's not confirmed that there will be fans on the home opener, the season opener in First Energy. They're still working to solidify that, but it is hopeful because the guidelines that they have set for First Energy Stadium looks really good, and it's very well laid out. They've got the seating arrangements figured out. They've got, hand sanitizing stations for fans. They've got in and out entrances so you're not passing people, a mask mandate in the stadium. So as long as the governor approves that.
See, Eric, Camryn's the only one really any of us who knows what she's talking about. That's why she's on the pod. She's the only one who knows what she's talking about.
And as she was talking, I was just sitting here thinking, I probably haven't played for less than 20,000 fans since high school. Yeah. And so what does that feel like? If there are 20,000 fans in the stands and they yell, what does that sound like? Right. Especially in a big stadium like that. Does that really make a difference anymore? Just because you got somebody out there clapping, because that's what it's going to sound like.
Yeah, high school in Virginia with 20,000 fans.
Right. And I think they will, like Camryn said, the Browns laid out a good plan. They call it the variance clause in that order where they can approve the plan. They approved Cedar Point's plan. So I understand, the difference between having 14,000 people at a Browns game and having Cedar Point, at 15% capacity. I think it does get approved, and I think there are Browns fans at that. But like Eric said, what's it going to sound like with that few fans in that big of a venue? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Eric, I want to circle back around, and dude, we've been all over the place. I'm sorry that this interview has been just
okay.
Like your college. Hey, let's talk about training camp. Hey, let's talk about your career. Hey, let's talk about the Browns. I want to go back because you played for the greatest coach.
Browns.
Yeah, you did play for the Browns. Yeah, 11-year career in the NFL. You played for Coach Belichick, and I don't think it's a surprise, Eric, that that he was kind of already playing football in the future, using you in the way that he did. How was it playing for Coach Belichick?
It was trying at times. I mean, when Bill first came to Cleveland, he had come from the Giants. They had won a couple Super Bowls and been with Coach Parcells, who everybody knew was a tough, no-nonsense type of coach. And so for Bill to come to Cleveland at the time, you have a lot of stubborn veterans. Bill wanted to do it his way and more military style, and we had guys like myself and others who wanted to be carefree and let's just go out there and play football. And so it was kind of a tug of war. And so I think that's why we didn't win all the games that we should have won until '94. But if you watch Bill as a coach at that time, you knew he was going to be a very good coach because of the way he paid attention to detail in all phases of the game and meetings and everything, and what he expected from each one of us. It was just, at that time, first coming to Cleveland, obviously we were losing when he came. And so it was just a matter of him getting the players that he wanted for his system, which inevitably he did once he got to New England, and it worked out.
Is there like a former player brotherhood of, if you played for Coach Belichick, only you know what it's like to play for Coach Belichick? Is there like this like big group chat with everyone? And have you talked with any other players and kind of helped them through that, or is it just he's played through with so many players it'd be ridiculous?
It's not a big group chat, but when you see guys who have played with Bill and you start talking about it, everybody pretty much says the same thing. Everybody mocks him the same. Everybody talks about how practice was the same and games and all that. And so, excuse me. And so everybody has the same conversation. But I think it's a little different now because he's a little older in the game. He's won a Super Bowl or two, and so it's easier to be more relaxed. Whereas back then he wasn't as relaxed, and even the years when he was there, my last couple of years with Bill, he was nicer, I should say, to the veterans because he understood that he was trying to be more of a player's coach and just have guys happy so he can go out there and play and succeed.
Well, Eric, we know that you're very experienced with the Browns, and I know that you're still a Browns fan. You're still watching this and following them. My last question for you, honestly, is just seeing this season, seeing how last season unfolded, seeing this season as they prepare to go into it and enter it. Do you have a breakout player? Is there a player that you're watching and just waiting to see what they do? And who is it and why?
Yes, there is. Woo. And it is Odell Beckham Jr.
Let's go! Let's go!
And not because I think he had a bad year last year. It's because everyone else thought he had a bad year last year, and he had over 1,000 yards receiving. Mm-hmm. So there are probably hundreds of receivers in the NFL that would love to say they had a bad year with 1,000 yards, but don't have that opportunity. And so now that I know that he's healthy, and it'll be his second year with Baker, although it's a new offense, he'll have opportunities to make plays. And so I'm looking forward to seeing some flashes of the old OBJ.
I think we all are.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think this – go ahead.
I was going to say it, and just think, I mean, although they have an offense where they run a lot of tight ends, just think about what Thielen and Diggs did in that offense. They caught lots of deep balls and big touchdowns. And so I think we have the opportunity to do those things. I'm pretty sure our quarterback can throw better than what they had. And then
I co-sign that.
and so I'm looking forward to it because I just see big plays all over the field. And last year, I think I was a little overly optimistic when I said we were going to win 11 games, not taking into account that it was the first time head coach, but taking into account that the roster on paper was so strong. And now it's even stronger. Mm-hmm. And so I think with having a coach that, although he wasn't a head coach before, has been in the thick of it for years and years, and so knows how to run an offense and knows how to run a playoff offense as well. And then you have all these guys who are in their second year together. And so I'm looking forward to big things from our offense.
You had 11. You said you had 11 games last season. Do you have you made a prediction for that? I don't want to put you on the spot. And I know we're not giving expectations. It's hard to do expectations. We've learned our lessons. But, I mean, you had to have played the game. You had to have figured out, like, tried to figure out how many wins.
I'm running it back.
Let's
running
go.
It back. I'm running it back. I mean, what is there to lose?
Let's go, baby.
I mean, nothing happens to me if I'm wrong. I'm running it back with 11.
Eric, you're on the right pod, man. Let me tell you, you're on the right
I'm
pod.
doing it again. I'm doing it again. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
Eric,
we've been doing
I love
it for years.
I absolutely love it.
Camryn, what's your season prediction, Camryn? I don't, because we recorded a way too early season preview right before you joined the show. I had us at 12. Jeremy had us at I have it right here. Jeremy has us at 11. I had us at 12. Camryn, how many wins do you have the Browns having?
So I did this before, and I came up with two different, because I'm torn. There's some of these games where I'm just like on the fence, and I can't decide. So I'm between 10 and 11. That's where I've landed every time, is 10 and 11 wins, and that's me just being, super optimistic.
Yeah.
So are you saying we're going to be 10-5-1? Is that's between 10 and 11?
I don't want to tie.
Right. So is it 10 or 11? You get one
All
shot.
right. Okay. I'll go 11.
Yes.
I'll go 11.
All right.
11. Well, Eric, whenever we get 11 wins, we'll do another pod and we'll smoke a cigar together, man.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
But I'm one of those guys. We're gonna smoke. We're gonna smoke a cigar.
Win or lose, we're having the cigar.
And I don't care. Right? You're gonna do that anyway. But if we win 9, if we win 10, and we make the playoffs, that's all that matters.
That's right, man. Yeah.
Giving ourselves a chance to be in the tournament and giving yourself a shot. That's all we care about. Just let's get to the playoffs.
Well, Eric, thank you for giving us a shot tonight. We know you have a lot going on. We hope you are doing well, and thank you so much for coming on the Orange is Orange, Eric.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Yep. Follow Eric on Twitter. He is a great follow. Make sure you catch all of his updates. You guys want to talk about training camp a little bit?
Sure. It's so upbeat right now. It's so uplifting and upbeat right now.
Camryn, who's been a breakout player for you?
So I was actually really excited to see what happened, with the offensive coordinator, Alex Metcalf, talking about it. Been, really, really waiting to see Rashard Higgins break out. And I mean, he's been impressive all training camp. He's gotten the eye of teams. And that was what I was worried about. I was worried about, because there's so many different options at receiver and who's going to make the roster cuts, who's going to get there. And I wasn't so much worried about him because, the payroll makes it, he's very easy to keep, but also is there going to be a role for him? So seeing him, make a name for himself in camp this season, I think is huge, because that gives him the opportunity to show up and prove himself on the field this season. I hope that happens. So that's one player that I've been watching. And my second player, not that anyone thought that he wasn't going to be great, but just seeing the connection between Baker Mayfield and Austin Hooper has been incredible.
That was mine.
I love it. It gives me so much hope for this offense. Like, I know Kevin Stefanski runs multiple tight end sets, but this is just, it's so great to see that he already is getting a connection with one of those tight ends, and to see that option happen in training camp. I'm just, it makes me so excited for the regular season.
Hooper and Bryant
why'd you
really
just
having
my
a great
breakout guy?
training.
Harrison Bryant was my breakout guy. Actually, I think the story of camp so far has been injuries and dysfunction. But I mean, I guess that would be expected. You're going to be a run first team. It's tough to judge the running game in training camp. I know Baker has not been sharp, but I guess that's to be expected since we haven't had much time together. Obviously, this is the most unique training camp in NFL history. So I guess I'll try to remain positive. With the injuries, the overthrows have been bad, but if I had to pick a breakout player right now, it'd be Harrison Bryant. I think he's I think he's going to be a stud. I think Njoku will probably be gone after this year. You'll have Hooper and Bryant. It'll be a nice combination for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, pour one out for Njoku. Poor guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see good tight end play.
It's been a while.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Well, that does it for this episode of the Orange is Orange and Browns podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and listening. Follow us on Twitter at Orange is Oranger. Make sure to follow Camryn and I almost said Jeremy. Jeremy, you're still not on Twitter, man. Good for you. Keep holding out. It's not gotten any better. But Camryn, any final thoughts, Camryn?
I'm just really excited to see how the rest of this training camp goes and to see how this team progresses under these weird circumstances. I think they're doing a great job so far, and we'll see what they're able to do. Hopefully we avoid any more injuries and take it a little easier, but still make progress.
Yep. Jay, any final thoughts for you?
I just think that injury to Delpit was just a backbreaker, especially a non-contact freak injury like that. But, they'll figure it out. Like Camryn said, smart group of guys. They're doing this as well as you could possibly imagine under the circumstances. So I, too, am excited to see how it ends, and I'm excited for the game. We got, 17 days?
Coming up. Yeah, it'll be nice to get back into rhythm recording the show with you all. Maybe here in the next 6-7 days we'll get another episode in, and we'll do our show preview week 1 against the Ravens in Baltimore. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, here we go, Brownies.
Let's go.
For the USA.